TruthSeekah and or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the TruthSeekah podcast.
Gargoyles, psychics, everything's ungodly. Dark's at it.
Streaming live at TruthSeekah.com.
She's not a Christian.
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in dark's at it stuff.
And now, your host, TruthSeekah.
Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm your host, TruthSeekah. This is the TruthSeekah podcast. I'm excited, delighted to be with you guys again for another episode. And we cover all things spiritual. Today, we're going to be talking about a spiritual pathway from recovery and addiction. Recovery from addiction. So, spirituality, spiritual practice, spiritual principles to tap into that. Before we get started, Lynn, there's a some kind of feedback loop. I don't know if it's the microphone. There it is. It's the headphones. All right, we'll keep going. I want to say a huge thank you to everybody who is listening right now. Everybody tuned in all over social media, wherever you're listening at. We got a bunch of people on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitch, wherever you are. Shout out to everybody listening live. Shout out to everybody listening on the podcasting apps. Let us know where you're listening from. Say hello in the chat, no matter where you are. Also, another huge thank you to everybody supporting my work, this podcast, my music, everything that I bring into the table through Patreon. This is a listener-supported, listener-funded show, and you guys supporting the work enables me to continue to bring these conscious conversations to the table. And I'll let you know there's a lot of people who are benefiting from this work. There's a lot. I get emails and messages every day from people who feel isolated, who feel alone, and who are looking for answers. And so, you know, this platform exists that everybody has a piece of the puzzle, and as long as we bring that piece to the table, and it formulates a picture. And just because it's an interview or a talk that doesn't ring true for you, there's hundreds of other people who are listening that something that didn't reach you, it would reach someone else. And that's the beauty of it. Even I know that some of the talks that I don't think that are as deep or as mystical or packed filled with information, for me, for someone else, it's an epiphany. For someone else, it's a revelation, and it's exactly what they're needing in that moment. So the divine God has a beautiful way of lining up these shows to help individuals, and I'm just thrilled to be a part of it. So thank you guys for partnering with me. We definitely are reaching the nations through conversation. It's amazing. So everybody who is supporting my work via Patreon, give a shout out to some of the latest patrons within the last week or so. Shout out to Dinger Galindo. Think of my friend Dinger and Alyssa Merritt. Some of the newest patrons who have joined to support, and thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. You rock. You mean the world. If you want to support, go to patreon.com/TruthSeekah. There you get access to my entire discography of music. You get access to our Thursday night School of the Mystics, which is our prayer and meditation live stream that we do. We're going to be doing it tonight, every Thursday night. You get access to that, to the back end, to ask questions, to hang out with a beautiful community of people who resonate with this type of information. So if you're looking for community and you want to support, man, definitely head over to patreon.com/TruthSeekah. You get a bunch of perks. It's really cool. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump into today's discussion. My guest today is Linville Meadows. Linville, welcome to the TruthSeekah podcast, my friend. How are you?
Hi, how are you, Derek?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Excited to talk about you and hear your story.
I'm excited too. I've been looking forward to this quite a bit.
For sure. So we're talking about recovery, and you wrote a book about the spirit, how spirituality links into
Derek,
recovery.
your sound keeps popping in and out. I'm sorry, I can't
My sound?
hear you at all right now.
Okay. Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me or if it's just Linville's. Can you hear me now? Can't hear me. Okay. Can you guys hear me in the chat? Can everybody hear me in the chat room? How about now? Can you hear me now? Nothing? Wow. Don't know. You might have to make sure I didn't mute myself. Might have muted myself somehow. No? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Still no? Headphones. Didn't you plug your headphones in just now? Now I can't hear you. Linville, are you there? I can't hear you now.
There, how's that?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, very good.
Okay, we're good. We're good. All right. Your story. You wrote a book, A Spiritual Pathway to Recovery from Addiction. Is this a personal story, or is this just your study in addiction?
It's both.
Both. Okay.
It's both. I have been sober since 1997, and I've learned a lot about the problem of addiction and about how to recover from it. I was a wino and a cokehead. I was a drunk and a junkie. And the thing about addiction is it really just takes away everything that you hold dear. In the end, you'll sacrifice anything. A friend of mine once said, Lynn, you don't understand how bad this disease is, but you will give your old lady to the dope man for a bag of dope, and you will kill him for half a bag. And that's absolutely true. The disease affects the mind and the body and the spirit. Now, I can't really define what spirit is. I have ideas. But so any treatment that really wants to go at the heart of the disease has to treat all three of these. By removing the drugs and the alcohol from your system, your body will eventually recover, unless, of course, you've gotten cirrhosis or some other bad thing. The mind is damaged by every get high you can name as a neurotoxin, and it poisons the brain, pickles it even. And most of that recovers over a period of time, but that effect isn't related to the actual levels of drug or alcohol you have in your system at that time. But the spirit is I think the most essential part, because if you don't change those problems in who you are as a person, you're going to go right back to your addiction. And so what I have discovered is a pathway that works for me. And it's important to know, for everybody to know, that what works for me is not going to work for anybody else. All right, nobody. And what I'm hoping is that by sharing my experiences, somebody will pick up one bit or one part that'll help them on their journey. So when I say something, please don't take it for gospel truth, all right? Because I have some interesting but also very strong ideas, because I've been working on this for a long time.
So how did you find recovery or sobriety, and how many times did you try? That's a big one. I had a guy out here, I think 37. A guy been into 37 different rehabs, and until he finally, the 37th time was a charm. But what about you?
Well, until a person is ready to quit, there's no sense in trying to talk them into it. You can send me to 37 rehabs, but if I'm not ready to quit, it's not going to work. I can't tell you that you're an alcoholic. The judge can't tell you that you're a junkie. Your wife can't tell you that you're both. I have to realize it for myself and be willing to go to any lengths to find a new way of life. I was willing to go to any lengths to get my drug of choice. I've been known to go to 3 different ATMs in 3 different counties and drive to a whole another county to find a dope dealer. And I finally got home, leaving at 5 p.m. I got home at 4 a.m. in the morning. All right, I have to be willing to put that kind of energy into my recovery if it's going to be successful.
Yeah. Those.
Now, what happened? Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say whenever you think about it, and I talked to a guy on here about drug addiction and just the way the mind works. When you think about the creative lengths that an addict will go to, like you said, to hit all the ATMs and think about how to make something out of nothing. I don't have any money, but I need to get $50 today to get my fix, and you'll find ways to do it, versus someone saying, I don't have anything and nobody will help me. Like the addict will find a way how to make something out of nothing to get what they need. If they would do that for, like you said, constructive things in their life, and you're saying maybe you have to actually tap into that for your recovery. Though that same, neurotransmitters of, okay, let's see how we can make this happen. How can I make something out of nothing? You kind of got to tap into that for your recovery too. That's very interesting, the way the mind works with an addict or even a drug dealer for that matter.
Yes. People come to see the doctor for 2 real reasons. Either they're in pain or they're afraid. Yeah. And it turns out that the 2 motivating factors that bring somebody into the rooms of a self-help group are pain and fear. The pain is obviously internal. I can't stand myself. I can't stand what I've become. And my goal every day is to get enough drugs in me to blot out my consciousness. All right. For me, it was fear. All right. I believe that within each of us, there's this terrible, terrible monster down there at the bottom someplace. As I mentioned, you reach a point where you would kill for half a bag of dope. And a lot of people say, well, I would never do that, or that would never happen to me. But that's just a yet. Most people have no idea of what I'm talking about here, but some do. And I've seen that monster come out in me, and it was so frightening. It happened. This all of a sudden, this thing sort of morphed out of me, and it grew and grew until it was about 9 feet tall, and I knew it was me. And I was so frightened. I went and hid in a corner and curled up into a little ball. And he turned around at me, and he was smirking at me. And I knew that if he came at me, he would kill me. And that's the most frightened I've ever been in my life. Now, was that I don't know what kind of experience that is, but the memory of it is as clear as the night that it happened. And so that I was willing to go to any lengths to keep that from happening again. Yeah. Now, in terms of being a physician, the other thing that happens is there is a group called the PRN, the Physicians Recovery Network. But if it discovers that you are impaired as a physician, they will come and try to rescue you, in the sense that they will keep your name from going to the medical board. Because the medical board finds out you're impaired, your license is gone. So what they do is they intervene and send you to a special sort of rehab that's geared just for doctors, with the clear understanding that if you don't complete this program, your license is gone. All right. And that kind of fear is a real strong motivating factor. One of the things that's funny about being a doctor in a rehab is it takes us a month just to realize we're not the doctor anymore, we're the patient.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah, it is.
I'm reading here in the comment section. Robin says, my mom said if my dad put as much effort into anything as he put into getting crack, he would have been a millionaire.
Yes. One of the things about addicts and alcoholics, and there's actually studies that demonstrate this, that as a group, we're more talented and more creative, and fortunately, we're more spiritual. Okay. Um, um, Dylan Thomas, who was a famous Welsh poet and one of the best alcoholics going, died at age 38 of chronic alcoholism. He understood his disease. He says that within me there's a beast, there's an angel, and there's a madman. Okay, the beast is the beast I just described to you. He knew it very well. The madman is that part of me that's insane. Okay, there's lots of forms of insanity. There's the depression that happens when you come in. Pretty much every person walks into rehab, they are clinically depressed. There's the neurotoxins that have affected my brain. And then fully half of people who have a mental diagnosis and half of people who are addicted will each belong in the other group. So that there's a high likelihood. For example, I'm bipolar. All right. But the other kind of insanity is the insanity of the disease itself, which I think is hardwired into us as addicts and alcoholics. Because I can be in a really good shape, and I can be walking down the street, and all of a sudden, out of the clear blue will come a thought that says, "Why don't you get a glass of wine?" All right, and I'll go, "Well, I really don't want a glass of wine. I'm trying to be sober here," and then you'll hear the voice that'll say, "Well, they won't be able to smell it on your breath." And I went, "That's not true. I know I can smell it on your breath." And the voice said, "You can have two."
Only
and that's
two.
yeah. Well, you see, the thing of it is, once there's an invisible line that you cross, that you go from being a heavy user to being an addict. When you cross that line, you no longer have the choice of using or not using. You no longer have the choice of stopping at one drink or two. The first drink goes in and it triggers some alteration in your body biochemistry where you can't stop until you either run out of get highs or you pass out. Yeah. All right. That's the insanity of addiction. And that, I think, will always be there. Now, our saving grace as alcoholics and addicts is the fact that we do have this very strong spiritual side. Almost everybody that I've talked to in the program has either wanted to go into the ministry or to the priesthood or some kind of thing like that. Unfortunately, most of those places won't have us. My sponsor, when I first came into the program, it was in the seminary. And he got kicked out because he went every night to the jazz bars and played his piano and that just wasn't considered appropriate for somebody in the seminary. So there was a very strong spiritual bent. That's the angel. That's what will save us when the going gets tough. That connection we have to some kind of deep spirituality, whatever that is the third part of the beast, the angel, and the madman, and that's what saves us.
And what did that look like for you? What was the spiritual connection that helped you get sober?
Well, the first thing that gets you sober is that you get into a situation with other physicians, nurses, lawyers, whatever, baseball players, and you see that that they're happy, they're laughing, cutting the fool, and I wanted what they had. I wanted to be that way. So I ran around after them trying to figure out what they were doing. When a person gets into that, when a person is deep in their addiction, they no longer trust anybody and their life is hopeless. All right. You go to a meeting and you feel very uncomfortable there with all these people. You don't understand them or anything. And then somebody gets up and tells his or her story. And suddenly you realize that that's your story, as if you'd written it down word for word and handed it to him to read out loud. And you go, well, I can trust that guy. He knows who I am. And with that kind of trust comes hope. All right. And the next bit that actually reaffirms that hope is they will tell you, you are a child of God. And because of that, you are a good and worthy person. You are a good person with a bad disease. If I was the disease, then there would be no hope for me. But since it's just a disease like rheumatoid arthritis or diabetes, it can be treated, and the good person who I am essentially will be able to come back out. Alcoholics and addicts are the most honest, kind, compassionate people, you would ever want to meet. But their hearts are very, very tender, way too sensitive. And the pain of the world, the hypocrisy we see, the dishonesty slowly begins to get to us. Most people will drink a bit when they're in their teens and early 20s, and then they stop. The problem with us is that we can't stop after a while. And then the pain of our using and the consequences of others makes us shut the heart down, and the ego takes over. And that good person who is hidden in there just can't get out anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, you find a difference with having a drink socially with friends, and then those other people. We can have a couple drinks, get into some great conversation, really enjoy ourselves. But there's other people that you bring into that, and it's like they're drinking to forget something. They're not drinking to loosen up and to be silly and have a good time. They're drinking to forget. And so it stands out when it's in a group of people who kind of can control, and you know what I'm saying. They know how much they can have versus that person that's like knocking them back. Like, hold on, we're having a beer. You just had 8 double shots. Like, hold on, this is crazy. You know, and you see those people and you run in circles with them, and it's like, yeah, this is a problem. I can't do this around you. I can't, because I'm essentially being an enabler. When you get around me and we have a couple beers, you're turning up and you can't stop. That kind of thing. There's a difference there, right?
Yes. Addiction is a very democratic disease. It affects people no matter what your social status. It doesn't care what kind of car your daddy drives, how much money you got in your bank account, what religion you were brought up in. None of that, whether you work as a doctor or a dock worker or a waitress, it doesn't care. Fully 10% of the population, and this is worldwide, it's not just in the US, 10% will end up having a problem with drugs or alcohol and cross that line into addiction. Now, they have some sort of biologic predisposition. All right. So the other 9 people in our youthful using group will go on and be able to quit. But the one of us in 10 who bears that genetic predisposition will cross that line, and they will not be able to stop for the rest of their lives. You can never go back to being a heavy user once you've crossed the line into addiction. The old timers like to say that a raisin can never go back to being a grape. And I think that describes that transition that happens.
Yeah. That's interesting. And you don't think you think that's for everyone? Because I know like a lot of people who are in like AA and stuff, it's this idea that I will always be an addict and I cannot go back. And they can't have a sip. I don't know if it's that they're programmed that way. You haven't never seen that work for people who were an addict. Now they, can have a drink and be okay with it. Do you think that like across the board, like that's the idea that?
Nope. They say, well, the question is, are you an addict to begin with?
Are you an addict, or are you just a hurt child? You know what I'm saying? Do you have unresolved childhood trauma? You know what I'm saying?
Turns out that 70% of all addicts and alcoholics lead a relatively normal life. There's no abuse. There's no bad things going on being raised. It's only 30% that have that in their history. So that's really not, it can certainly make anything worse, but it's not a part of the disease itself. No, I've never seen anybody who could take one drink after years of sobriety and get away with it. Now, maybe there are. I've just never met any. Okay. The people that go to AA and NA and other sorts, Cocaine Anonymous, whatever, other sorts of self-help group have reached a point where they can't live the way they were. Yeah. They've reached what's called a turning point in their life. For me, it was a point I knew it was either quit or die. As a physician, I was living in this great, wonderful house, driving a brand new car, lots of money in the bank. And I knew with absolute certainty that I was going to die soon, chasing the dope man down a dark alley. Some days I really wanted to quit, and some days I just didn't care.
Yeah. And what was your drug of choice with addiction?
Wine and cocaine. made a great combination.
Yeah.
So I thought.
My you know, I grew up being raised by my uncle, getting babysitted and watched, and he was definitely an addict. He died of hepatitis B and cirrhosis of the liver, and you know, sharing needles and drinking. And this guy would wake up, you know, he'd wake up at 4 a.m. and have to go to the bathroom, but he'd drink a beer on his way to the bathroom. He'd get up in the morning and have a bowl of cereal. He'd be eating a bowl of cereal and milk and drinking a beer at the same time. He'd take a bite and he'd drink his beer. He'd get a 24-pack every day and he'd knock them out. You'd think that a 24-pack was for him and a bunch of other people. That was his. Like, that was like, there's a difference there when it comes to socially drinking or whatever versus like someone who has a problem, you know?
I would buy wine 4 cases at a time. That's 48 bottles. And I would buy cocaine an ounce at a time. And I bought pot a pound at a time. The cocaine and the wine would not last but a little over 3 weeks. And I thought that was normal. My thinking had gotten so distorted that that was okay. I'd hit a state of denial where I would deny to myself all the stuff that was going on around me, all the pain I was causing other people, the pain I was causing myself, the destruction that I was wreaking on the world around me. You were talking about spirituality.
Yeah.
I don't know what spirituality is, okay? It sort of began, I had studied the Bhagavad Gita, which is, of course, the Hindu Bible, if you won't think of it that way, when I was in college. And when they said you have to find some sort of higher power and redefine who you are, I thought, well, maybe there's something there, because I had sort of given up on my, I was raised a Southern Baptist. My grandfather would come and preach at you until you turn red in the face. He'd tell you you're going to hell. And as soon as I could, I left that story behind. But then see, the trouble with that is I had thrown God and religion out of my life.
Yeah.
And so there was a vacuum, and the job was available, and I applied, and what do you know? I got it. All right. Then when I got into medicine became my higher power. I worshiped at her altar. I did what she told me. I gave my whole life to her. I abandoned my family. I abandoned all my hobbies and all the other stuff outside of medicine. My top 3 priorities in my life were my job, my job, my job. And so that having that void in there, I can't be God. I can't play God. As a doctor, you think you can play God, but you can't. So I looked up, I found a copy of the Bhagavad Gita and I opened it up randomly. And the first thing it said is that the spiritual pathway is one of attraction, not promotion. All right. And I went, wow, because that was actually one of the tenets of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's why it's anonymous, because I can't proselytize to you. You have to be ready. And when your hand reaches out for help, I have to be there to help you. All right. So that led me to other sources over time. And I began to realize that spiritual truth is the same wherever you find it. It doesn't matter if you look in the Gita, if you look in the Dhammapada, which is Buddhist, if you look in the books of Matthew and John, there is such an incredible wealth of spiritual truth in there. And it all kind of focuses on the same truths, no matter what, okay? You can find it anywhere. I think every movie by Steven Spielberg has some kind of spiritual message to it. There's a song by Sting that is the only living Englishman in New York, I think, and the chorus is, be yourself no matter what they say, be yourself no matter what they say. He has to say it 3 times, be yourself no matter what they say, because that's so important. All right. So once you open your eyes, I needed a new set of eyes to look at the world around me. People, I've heard it said that God made all women beautiful if only I have the eyes to see it. Well, what I discovered was that the world is perfect just the way it is, if only I have the eyes to see it. Okay. What I believe is that there is, I don't think that there's some old man sitting on a throne just someplace between Neptune and Jupiter who throws lightning bolts at us out of the clear blue just because he's a mean and nasty guy. That didn't work for me. Right?
Zeus.
Works for some. If it works for you, that's fine. I have cousins on both sides of the family who are deep into that, and all that matters is that it works for you and helps you to have a fulfilling, creative life. So I think there's some kind of force. If you believe in cause and effect, if there's an effect, there's got to be some cause. Okay. There must be some reason, people have argued for a long time, why there is something rather than nothing. All right. So I postulate this force, which is beyond my understanding. I can't even balance my checkbook. You want me to tell you the nature of the universe? I don't think so. But there is some force, and what kind of characteristics might it have in my limited view? Well, the first, I was given the assignment of defining my own higher power that I could relate to. It has to be something that I can relate to in everyday life. And these two words popped into my head. Now, I had heard this term before, but I'd never really thought about it with any depth or effort. And it was the two words, unconditional love. All right. And if that force of the universe was in fact unconditional love in the broadest sense I can put to it, then a whole lot of things begin to fall out. Okay. Then the underlying nature of this force is love. All right. When I use the term God, what I mean is that love is, and I don't mean a romantic love. I'm talking about what the Christians talk of as agape love, where you basically that I wish for you and yours all the good things that life has to offer, and I don't want anything in return, and it doesn't matter if I never see you again. All right. That's the kind of love we're talking about, that you should have all the benefits that the universe has to offer. So the other things that must go with this would be creativity. All right. Kindness, compassion, all those virtues that we talk about have to be embodied in that. There is a law that people describe as the law of likes, which is that you can only give rise to what you are. For example, giraffes don't give birth to babies. Kitty cats don't give birth to elephants. All right. So if this love, if this field of energy is pure and unconditional love, then it can't make anything but unconditional love. This unconditional love flows through something in here and out through me and into the world. All right. And then it's a cycle because it hits the other guys, whoever's around me, and it flows back in like an electric circuit. It flows constantly. And what blocks that? Well, my ego blocks it. And my ego is driven by fear. Okay. And when I'm using, it really clutters up that passageway. I was dating this really nice woman in DC. She was a poet and a very nice woman. And she had a lot of trouble getting into the program. And the last night that she got drunk, she went to a bar and closed it down. They poured her into a cab. And on the way back to her apartment, she prayed. She said, God, does this mean we can't have a relationship? And she got an answer. It's as clear as day, what sometimes happens. And the answer was no, but it makes it more difficult. The using, the addiction, the drugs, the pot, all somehow blocks the pathway. So we can't get through. And in order to remove that, I have to reduce my ego to a much more normal size. We talked about the heart being shut down. I have to open the heart back up. The ego and the heart have to be in balance. But there is something I can remember when I was like 13. This thought just came to me that on one side over here, there's this devilish kind of thing that wants me to do bad stuff. And over here, there's this angelic kind of thing that wants me to do good stuff. And they were arguing back and forth. But then way, way in the back, there was something much more strong and much more powerful that just sat there like the Buddha, smiling, realizing that what these two were into was absolutely inconsequential. All right. In the time of the Old Testament, God was Yahweh. I am who I am. And scholars will say that when Jesus came, he shortened it to simply I am. Okay, the I am within me. That thing in the back, that's the I am. People call it the Christ within, the Buddha within, the Godhead, any number of terms, but they're all talking about the same thing, I think. And that this is where all of my virtues, all of my compassion, honesty come from, and they pour out. And I can either let the ego run and block them. I can let fear run my life, which drives the ego. If I can remove fear from my life, it's very easy to be happy. The Buddha said, the secret to life is to live without fear. All right. And what's interesting, and in the book of Matthew, Jesus over and over again says that the answer to fear is faith. All right. They say that in the Bible, over 330 times the word faith and fear are connected in the same sentence or in the same paragraph. And it turns out that faith is the answer to fear. I was taught a prayer when I first got into rehab. One of the things that happens is you lose your chemical coping skills, and you have not yet developed non-chemical coping skills. And people get very, very angry. And I got very angry. I was so angry, I was ready to drive my car onto the railroad tracks and wait for the 310 to show up. Fortunately, my roommates recognized it and took my car keys away from me. And a guy shows up in the apartment and he says, "You've got a resentment." And I said, "No, I don't." And then he said, "But I'm going to tell you how to get rid of it." He said, "I'm going to teach you this prayer." And I said, "Well, dude, I'm not sure I believe in God, and I certainly don't know how to pray." He says, "Just shut up and do what I tell you." And he said, "This is what I want you to do. Say these words once a day for the next 14 days. And the words were simple. God, I thank you for taking away my fear and replacing it with the faith that no matter what happens, everything is going to be all right. Well, being a good alcoholic, if once a day is good, twice a day must be better. So I did it twice a day. And in about a week, I had this terrible resentment. What it was, I had this terrible resentment against my partner because I knew he had caused all of my problems. Okay. If it wasn't for him, I'd have been happy at home doing coke and wine. And I did it for a week. And I suddenly realized one morning that the resentment that was like this big had shrunk down. It wasn't gone, but it was down here out of the way, and it was no longer running my life. Well, I spent most of my medical career as a scientist working in a research lab. And in the lab, when you find something that works, you can't wait to try it again to see if it's reproducible. And so I couldn't wait to as a scientist, I couldn't wait to try it again. And I did, and it worked again. And I tried it again, and it worked a third time.
The prayer? The prayer?
Yeah, just like that. And I've been praying that. Well, prayer is a whole nother issue. It's not what people think it is. Well, it's not, but it does
different
work.
Types of prayers.
Yes, but when you learn how to do it, they call it scientific prayer. It works, and it works all the time. But you have to know what you're doing. All right, it's like making shoes or learning how to do your multiplication tables. You can't just go at it and expect it to work. If I go out to change my flat tire with a hammer and a screwdriver, I might get it changed, but I probably won't. I have to know the right tools, and I have to know how to use them to get the effect that I want.
Yep.
So the prayer has worked consistently for 23 years. It has never failed me. I don't know of anything else in life that never fails. All right. I learned that I can substitute obsession. I have take away my obsession with that woman sitting across the aisle there. Take away my obsession with drugs and alcohol. Take away my how I feel against this other person over here, my anger with him, and it works for all those things.
The prayer, for sure.
Yeah. God, I thank you for taking away my fear and replacing it with a faith that no matter what happens, everything will be all right. Now, God, in that sense, is what I think God is, not what you or what my grandfather thinks God is, but what I think it is and how I relate to it as something of unconditional love beyond my wildest understanding. In the opening lines of the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tse says that that which is the Tao is that which is called the Tao is not the Tao. In other words, you can't name this higher power because even putting a name on it restricts it to my field of view. Right? I can't begin to understand this, and in my worm-like fashion, when I think I got it, clearly I don't.
Yeah. Well, that's the beautiful thing. You mentioned, the Old Testament name of God, I am that I am. and I will be whatsoever I will be. It's like, yes, I am that to this person, but to this person who knows me more deeply, or knows me, these attributes of me, or it, whatever you want to call it, consciousness of this beauty of everlasting love. We know it in different degrees. It means something different to you because you've been at the bottom of the barrel and you know the God that can go down that far. Some people, you know, a God of unconditional love. It's very similar to what we'll say in the Christian God, but other Christians would say that God has conditions, that he only loves you if you stop drinking, or if you stop doing coke, or stop being gay, or whatever. They have these ifs and stuff. And so to see that unconditional God, which I believe is the true God, I don't think there's any conditions that it puts on you. Now, if you want to better yourself and get up out of your mess, certainly there's conditions that you must hold, in standards you must hold yourself to. But the love from that creator continues to flow to you. Now, your ability to receive that through your own layers of consciousness, that's that voice that's speaking to you. And I wanted to go back to that. You're talking about, hey, do this. It's okay. You can have 2 drinks today. No one would know. Who would know? They wouldn't know. Nobody's going to know. 2 drinks, man. You used to drink 7 a day. Drink 2. Like that rational voice that's trying to get you to do something bad, trying to get you to go against what you know to be your greater good. What about, but you said behind that, there's this Buddha, there's Christ, there's that infinite love that says, hey, you don't need it. Like, I got the grace for you. Like, all you gotta do is say the prayer, and you gotta quit thinking about it, and it's gone. And there's something better behind it. Like, there is something better behind the addiction. There is something better than that. How does that tie into momentary pleasures, or what we kind of talk about, delayed gratitude? Like, instant gratification is like, it's never the answer. It's always about delayed gratification. Let me put in work. Let me put in time. Let me not take this pill that's going to make me happy. Let me develop beautiful relationships and scenarios and do the inner work that's going to keep me happy. It's usually not instant. I think the prayer brings in instant relief, you know what I'm saying? But there's no like bad consequence to that instant gratification. So how does that the voice and the instant gratification tie in together?
I think that Jesus is probably the spiritual master of the world. And that some of his stuff that, for example, in Matthew and in John are just terribly profound. And he says you can't serve mammon and God at the same time. You can't pursue power, position, and property and still walk the spiritual path. If that's my priority, it's always going to fade. All right, I got a new car. It feels good. Got girls in the back. People wave at me. All right. Well, somebody keys the hood. The girls go away, and the first payment comes due. And what's happened? I lost my buzz.
Yeah.
I got high off of the buying, of the pride, but I lost my buzz. And every material thing that I go for will do the same. I have to have more and more and more. I have to outdo the Joneses. I have to climb the corporate ladder. He's got more than me. I can't be happy in this.
Buyer's remorse.
Well, no, it's much stronger than that. You can find the same message from Krishna, from the Buddha, and from Lao Tse. The exact same message. All right. This feeds back into the idea of dualities. All right. John Paul Sartre said that hell can be defined as a belief in dualities. Okay. If God is this infinite goodness, this infinite unconditional love, then he can't create anything that's not also good and also wonderful. That means that I have that in me. That means the world has that in it. Okay. He can create nothing good. Well, why do I see good and bad? Because I believe in dualities. Go back to the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve were just fine until they ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And when they took up, and when they believed in that duality, all of a sudden they were naked. All of a sudden they would hide and they were afraid. And when I have to get rid of my concept of dualities in order to find real serenity. Serenity is a mystic term. It's also been described as nirvana, enlightenment, the peace that passeth understanding is what my mother called it. But I can't live in a world of duality if I'm going to find serenity. And my goal in recovery is not abstinence, not just not drinking, not sobriety where I go to the meetings, but and not just recovery, which is essentially walking the spiritual path. My goal is serenity. Right? Serenity is a state where the past is not a millstone around my neck. I'm not frightened of the future. I'm living in the moment, meditation and mindfulness right in there, learning to live in the space between my thoughts. It is a place of joy and peace and infinite kindness, and you can't hurt me there. You can steal my car, you can steal my woman, you can kill one of my kids, but you can't reach me there. Now I can let things take me out of my serenity, but I work very hard for it. I'm really not going to let you do that. Which is why I limit myself to about 5 or 10 minutes of the news every day, because there's only so much of that I can take.
Oh yeah.
And my mind and my spirit are like a garden. If I plant junk in there, all right, junk's gonna grow. I don't go out in our garden behind the house and plant weeds and expect tomatoes to come up. All right, I have to get rid of the weeds. Removing all negativity from my mind is one of the most important things in finding this serenity. It took me 6 months of constant vigilance some years ago to catch every bit of negativity as it came into my mind. I'm not responsible for the thought that pops into my head. I'm responsible for what I do with it. I can hold on to that thought. I can obsess on it. And being an obsessive compulsive addicted person, I can really hold on to something, or I can throw it away. I get to choose. One of the joys of walking this pathway is that I no longer have to respond reflexively. My friend Wayne cusses me out and I slap him upside the head. Well, today Wayne cusses me out and I take a step back and I go, that's interesting. I wonder why he said that. I don't have to engage. I don't have to take the hook. I can step back and say, I wonder why he did that. Okay. And that requires that I recognize negative thoughts. Well, negative thoughts come in many forms. I have to get rid of all my blame, my shame, and my guilt. I have to watch out for words like if only, what if, could have, would have, and should have are all forms of negativity that if I let those start spinning in my OCD mind, it puts me into a bad place. But I can recognize those, I can remove them, and if all else fails, I can say the prayer. All right, now, so what is faith then? All right, that makes the prayer work. For me, faith was really simple. I said the prayer the first time and it worked. I said the prayer the second time and it worked. And over the years, every time I have said that prayer, it has worked. All right. I have faith now that when I say that prayer, it works.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what prayer is. I can make some suppositions about it. And I don't know what the nature of the universe is, but I know that this thing works. I have faith that there's something out there that's responding to me. And that was the beginning, not pie in the sky chariots drawn by golden horses or whatever, cherubs with pink cherubs with harps. No, it's practical, everyday, useful faith. All right. And it grew into something that said, no matter what happens, everything is going to be okay. All right. And I'm 72 years old, and in my life, I've gone through a lot of stuff. The death of my parents, death of my brother, losing everything that I had. And yet here I sit in my chair, talking with you, and everything came out okay. I'm just fine. And I have to presume that if I lived another 72 years, I would be in the same place where everything turned out just fine. Today, it doesn't matter what comes down the pipe. I have answers for it. All right. I have the tools of the spiritual tools that I've been given. I have friends who are working the same sorts of things, and I have this faith that no matter what happens, everything's going to be all right. One day I was out in the garden, and my wife came out, and our car had a flat tire on it. She got, oh my God, we got a flat tire, oh my God. And I stopped, I put my hoe down and I just walked over and I looked at the tire and I said, well, don't worry, it's not so bad, dear. It's only flat on one side. So I took the air pump out and filled it up with air, and it held the air. We drove down to our mechanic about 3 miles away, and he took it off, plugged it, filled it up with air, and $20, and 20 minutes later, I was back in the garden. All right. It's not the end of the world because the tire's flat. It's just something that I'm taking care of now. And then when that's done, I go back to doing what I was doing before. So there is a level where I can no longer be interrupted. I can deal with anything. All right. And that's part of the faith as well. All right. So that no matter what happens, everything's going to be all right. I know that. And because the world is good, because it's essential goodness that drives everything. When I see something I think is evil, it's only in my eyes. If I get the eyes that says that the world is perfect just the way it is, I begin to understand, first of all, how ephemeral things are. You can argue this, you can argue that, you can get all upset about politics. It doesn't matter. In 100 years, none of that will matter. Okay. I mean, take the long view. On my front porch, lives a friend who I call Fred. Fred is a large sedentary rock. Okay. He is beautifully orange. And he sits there, and as you can imagine, Fred's thoughts are very slow. It takes a long time to have any sort of conversation with him. And he looks at me and he looks at the world, and he's just, it's okay. I'm just sitting here watching. It's flowing right by. All right. The other, how do you deal with dualities? Well, what I was taught, my good friend Robert came into our apartment one day and he says, we've been trying to get away from dualities, good and bad, good and evil, up and down, high and low, right and left. If I turn around, my left hand becomes my right hand. If I look in the mirror, it's the other way around. And he said, here's what I'm working on. Today in life, I have a goal. All right. My goal is not what I want to achieve, but how I want to live my life. And the goal never dies. All right. My goal is to carry the message that living by spiritual principles will solve all my problems, especially and including my addiction. All right. And so what Robert said was that instead of going good and bad, let's go more useful and less useful. Now that only works if you have a goal. And making decisions. Today I can say, well, will this decision in front of me, if I decide one way, will it take me toward or away from my goal? Imagine as an addict, I have $300 in my hand. I could pay the rent, or I could go buy a bunch of dope. Well, what's your goal? If your goal is to block your consciousness out, then it's to go buy the dope. But if your goal is to live the best life that you can and to be fulfilled as a person and to find love everywhere, then I go pay the rent. So having a goal, knowing what's more useful in terms of taking me towards my goal and less useful. I think about a playground someplace, a fenced playground. There's a bunch of kids in there, and Tom and Joe are on the teeter-totter, and Mary's on the swing, and Billy and Bob are over here gang raping little Mary, and over in the back somebody's shooting up, and further in the back 3 or 4 guys are beating a guy to death with a baseball club. And it doesn't matter, for the simple reason that when the game is over, everybody goes home. Krishna said, he who thinks he kills is wrong. He also said, he who thinks he is killed is wrong. In the end, all men and women come to me. God sits outside that fence and looks in and goes, yeah. All right, game's over. Let's go home. Now, the idea of hell is, of course, a major form of a duality. All right. In this pathway, there is no devil, there is no hell, and actually there is no death. All right. You remove the fear of death, and life gets very simple all of a sudden. So that in the end, now, with your judging God, let's say you had 4 children. I have 4, all right? And being an equal opportunity employer, half would go to hell and half would go to heaven. I don't know if you have any kids, but you ask me which 2 of my children I'm going to send to hell, and sorry, I'm not going to send any of them to hell. And as Jesus said, if you son asks you for a piece of a loaf of bread, you wouldn't give him a stone. And you being imperfect parents, how much more must your Father in heaven love you? Okay. And Jesus also said, it is not my Father's will that even one of these little ones should be lost.
Yeah.
The force, the energy that flows through me, is energy is never lost. The force of energy that flows through me, the real source of the I am, only can go back to where it came. The Buddhists talk about a drop of water, a drop of seawater, who asks the question, how salty is the sea? And the answer is simple. Jump in the ocean and find out. All right. Imagine, if you will, you're standing on one of these beautiful rocky coasts up in Maine, and the waves come crashing at it. And by the way, the ocean is the closest thing to infinity that I can touch. All right. Goes on forever. All right. So this infinite ocean smacks up against these rocks, and thousands, millions, billions of little teeny droplets of water go up into the air. All of a sudden, I'm all alone. I don't know anything about me. I'm scared shitless. And I don't know what's happening to me. I don't know my way around. And then after some long, weary and fearful existence, I fall back into the warm, loving ocean that was there all along. I just couldn't see it. So I think that the basis of our fear is simply the false sense of separation from the universe, from our God, from our higher power. Mm-hmm. And that's freaky. All right. And when I realize that I'm never separate from that, this force, this energy flows through the entire universe. It is just as much in my coffee cup, in my shoe, as it is in me. Now, I'm a different life form, but it's just as much in everything. Everything is sacred. Everything is holy. We're all part of the same thing. If God is in you and you are in God, and if I am in God and God is in me, then I am in you and you are in me, right? Pretty inescapable. If I hurt you, I'm only hurting myself. And when I hurt myself, I hurt everybody. If I do one little small goodness for somebody else, I may never realize how much goodness is done. And you think, well, I just wasted my energy, But what happens is that everybody to some small degree is helped, because that love radiates out, not just to this one person. So when I send a blessing out, it's always returned to me. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but throw your bread on the waters and it will come back to you in many days. I was at a AA meeting down in Jacksonville and was walking across the courtyard to get to where we were having the meeting. And this woman comes out on another pathway and she yells, Lynn, you saved my life. You taught me about spirituality. And I went, who the hell are you? Well, I used to go to detox and they would take away your clothes because they were usually pretty bad, burn them, and they would give you surgical scrubs to wear. And so I didn't recognize anybody. And they looked really bad. So without me knowing it, I had affected this woman's life. When you do something good, you never know who it's going to touch. All right. I was given this thought, and it's really silly, but it works. And it's called Great Big Yellow Buttery Balls of Love. Imagine, if you will, something the size of a beach ball, and it's yellow, and it's like the sun, it's radiating, it's covered in buttery love that's just dripping all over the place. Mm-hmm. And you like a beach ball, you take it and you throw it. All right. If I am going to my mother-in-law's house and I know she's going to roast me on a spit, when I come up the driveway, I throw it. Now, it's like a cruise missile, because you don't have to know where this person is. It finds them automatically, and it hits them splat right on top of the head. Okay. And it's so silly. It makes me laugh. And that tension, that fear is broken somewhat. So great big yellow buttery balls of love. What's funny is that it works. Now, why should it work? Well, it works because what I'm really doing is I'm sending God's blessing, the blessing of the universe, out to this other person. All right. I had this friend who he was really a mess. He'd been in the war in Iraq. He had PTSD. His teeth were falling out. He was just a mess, and I helped him out a bit. And we were sitting on the front porch, and he was having trouble with his parents, and I explained the great big yellow buttery balls of love to him, and he went and he tried it. And then I didn't hear any more from him for over a year, and he called me one day. And he'd developed some kind of really bad neurologic disease, and he was losing control of his hands and feet. Was having trouble breathing. He had sold all this stuff, and he was going into some kind of short-term care facility. But he wanted to call me and tell me that every time he felt bad in all those situations, he thought about the great big yellow buttery balls of love, and it made him feel better. So you touch another person, you will not know it. In fact, I would prefer not to know it, right? I can do an immense amount of good in the world simply by trying to live a spiritual life. I drag other people along with me. It's inescapable.
Yep. I talk about the ripple effect, and it happens both ways. It happens when you were running dope and you were stealing and lying and trying to get people to shoot dope with you for the first time. You'll love it, man, or whatever. You're having this impact that they go out and they get other people to start smoking dope, and they steal from their family, and they, in this ripple effect that happens, and when you're doing bad, but it also happens when we're doing good. So to be conscious of our actions and our words and how much impact that we have in other people's lives unknowingly. I tell you what, I know you say you try not to think about it, you just do it. It is very interesting to think about, to trace it back, and for me, just facilitating, prayer meetings or whatever I'm doing, this podcast even that, hundreds of people are listening to, that has an impact, and they take it. Like, there's people who are listening to this podcast, and one for sure, and this is one person. I mean, there's thousands of people who have heard this over the years, but one person heard this podcast. He got excited. He loved what I was doing. So he started his own podcast. Now he is having other people on, telling their story, giving the message of hope, message of love and unconditional love through God and things like that. Now he's like, because of what I did, he's starting to do it. Now he's reaching people that I wouldn't be able to reach. And I feel like the gratitude from that, obviously I'm tracing that one, even if we never even branched off from anyone else, even the people that he's reaching that kind of branch off, like to sit in that knowing of how much impact we have just by living in our truth, being true to ourselves, and being open and honest about our story, how powerful that is and how much impact it has. Listen, there's a lot more people who have started podcasts because of what I'm doing, and or who have, said yes to spirituality or said yes to their purpose in life, and, finding why they're here and all of that stuff because they're challenged and now they feel less isolated. It's amazing to think about. There's no way I can follow each one and even know. These are only the people that reach out to you. We're not talking about the people who just kind of in passing, they're just inspired and take it with them. It's very interesting to know that no matter what we do, it definitely ripples into eternity. Even what we do on this earth ripples into eternity.
Yes, I absolutely believe that, because we're part of that. We're inherently enmeshed in that. So we cannot do anything without having an effect that ripples out, right? Like a pebble thrown into a pond. It's absolutely sure. I want to share two little experiences that may prove interesting. I was maybe a couple of months sober, and we were going to this big AA meeting out by Lake Lanier. And we had this van. And on the way home, we were sitting on the bench seat there, and the driver, John, went around the corner too fast, and they slammed the two people next to me into me up against the window, And at the same time, these words were shoved into my head just like a hitting the carriage you turn on an old typewriter, driving the platen all the way across. They came in just like that. And it was my voice, but it was stronger and more powerful and more assured than my voice had ever been in my head. And it said simply, God does not want you to drink, use drugs, or kill yourself. All right. Now, if the voice was coming from me, I would certainly have said, God doesn't want you to drink or use drugs. But the idea of not killing myself was not something I ever would have thought of. And in fact, the night before I went to detox, I seriously considered killing myself. I got my shotgun out, put some shells in it, but I couldn't do it. All right. So that was very astounding. There's another meeting I went to. Well, there's a couple of things. One is that I was listening to a guy, and he said, I have the disease of addiction, and I treat my disease with a daily dose of spirituality. And I get my spirituality from two places. I get it from prayer and meditation, and from going to my AA, NA, CA meetings. All right. There's something in the meeting that is more than the sum of its parts. All right. There is a feeling in there. It's a place where I don't have to wear a mask. I can be exactly who I am. And all of us are looking for something and are sharing our pathway. And there's all kinds of it. Like I said, it cuts across all demographics.
Yeah.
And when I leave there, I almost feel like I'm walking on 6 inches of air because I've gotten this dose of spirituality. And I suspect that I know when I can call people on the phone that are in the program, or speak with you, or speak with some of the other folks on podcasts, that what's happening is we are sharing this moment of spirituality, and it puts me forward. That dose of spirituality has to be daily. Prayers are only good for a day. Bread is only good for a day.
Yeah.
The dose of spirituality is only good for a day. I don't understand that, but it's a recurring theme.
Yeah.
The other story, I was at a huge meeting, 350 people. And guy comes on, I'm a teacher. He says, I'm going to teach you how to meditate today. And I'd been trying to meditate, and it just wasn't working out. Well, one thing, I was trying too hard, and the other, I didn't know what I was doing. The best I could come up with was a little hole, a little bit of light about 18 inches away from my nose, much like the see-through hole in the door of the apartment of the motel room where you look through to see if the police are coming. All right, about like that, And he said, all right. He said, don't get freaked out. I'm going to turn the lights off. So we turn the lights off. He said, I want you to sit straight up, put your feet flat on the floor, and sit up straight, and put your head back, sit up straight in the chair. And I said, that's an interesting idea. Never thought of that. And then he breathe in, breathe out. He says, now I'm going to put on some music. And it was a song I'd heard since I've been growing up. My parents played it when they got together on Sunday. When I learned how to play the guitar, I played it. When I was a little teeny kid, my parents would drag me to these churches in the Wildwood, and they would sing it. And it was Amazing Grace, which is, of course, the story of a slaver, an addict who got sober, who found the light. And when that happened, all of a sudden, that little piece of light swelled up and grew and grew until it filled up my entire consciousness. All right. Was I scared? Brother, I was so afraid. I did not know what was going on. I was afraid to breathe. I was afraid to move. And I just sat there. And when the music stopped, it vanished. And I was feeling around to see if all my parts still here. And I suddenly realized my fear of dying had been taken away. Gone. Just never come back. All right. Without that fear, without that basic fear, life becomes so easy. I don't have to worry about somebody's going to steal my car.
Yes.
Somebody's going to steal my identity. My stocks are all going to crash. I don't have to worry about any of that anymore. So that's the serenity that I look for.
Yeah, you've been mentioning that a lot. This fear and being afraid to die, the fear of death or whatever. It comes in many different ways. And also I do believe in a healthy fear, but fear
you can be cautious. You can not go out without a mask. You don't stand on the railroad tracks when the train is coming. You don't pick up a rattlesnake.
Well, the fear of a reverence as well. I think the word, like the like the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The fear of the Lord is
if God is unconditional, then there is no fear of God. That's a duality. God either loves me or he hates me. I either
Well,
love God or I fear him.
well,
If
I think the thing about duality is the fact that they all exist within the oneness, though. It isn't that
they
it's either
exist
here nor
within my
there
head in the oneness,
in your
only
head.
because I see it with the way that I've been brought up, with the neural pathways are like, my father used to tell me, we go down a country road, he says, pick your rut carefully, you'll be in it for the next 40 miles. And we make mental ruts when we run these thoughts over and over again. And all I have to do is get close to the rut and I fall in it and I have 40 miles of this, oh my God, you know? And what I have to learn how to do is to recognize those ruts and not fall into them again.
Yeah.
I see dualities. I used to see dualities, but I don't see them anymore. All right. Dualities, as Shakespeare said, there is no thing good or bad except my thinking makes it so.
Yeah. Well, that's it. All
I
exists.
on everything.
It all exists. Again, it's your it's your belief in it. This
Yes.
whole that so you say get rid of the idea of good and bad. I'm a good person and loved by God, or I'm a sinner that is dirty and filthy and unrighteous, and like the two that exist within the one. Like to think that mankind is inherently good, or I am inherently good, or I am inherently bad, and those are two dualities that a lot of people hold to with the
holding to a duality. If that works for you, if you're happy, if you've got serenity, if you don't have to, if you're not worried about politics or money or any of that stuff, if that works for you. But if you're in a life, if you want to live in a life where you're afraid all the time, you're afraid you're gonna make mistakes. What if you commit to sin for which there is no forgiveness? What is the sin for which there is no forgiveness? The sin for which Jesus said it was blaspheming against the Holy Ghost. Well, how do you blaspheme against the Holy Ghost? Well, I'm going to tell you how. When you are deepest in your addiction, you basically turn away from the light. Spiritually speaking, life and light and love, I think, are the same things. When you turn away from the light, as your addiction gets deeper and deeper and deeper, you are in the absolutely blackest place that a human being can be. You are completely turned away from the light and away from the love. That portal for entry has been completely obstructed. And because of that, that spirit cannot reach you. You are in a place where forgiveness cannot find you. Okay. And someone has to reach out and help you. You have to say, I need help. You have to be willing to turn and face the light. That is the sin for which there is no forgiveness, because simply forgiveness can't get to you when you're in that place. All right. If I believe there's good and bad, then I have to see, I embrace the entire world. If the world, if the universe is good, then everything in it has got to be good. All right. If God is good, he cannot create evil. Like begets like. Okay. Harmony is the natural state of the universe. Told it to my daughter. She said, Dad, you know that's not true. Well, look at the universe. These galaxies rotate, and there's perfect harmony in all of these. And then our galaxy rotates and spins, and the suns and the comets and the moon move in perfect harmony. The moon moves, the earth moves around the sun in a perfect harmonic motion, the moon around us. Go to the lowest level. Nature by itself is perfectly harmonic, in perfect harmony if we don't mess with it. That's called the ecosystem, right? Look at the subatomic level, all right? Quarks go together to make subatomic particles, and in a perfect union, the subatomic particles make neutrons and protons and electrons, and they spin and they work perfectly all the time. And the atoms combine with the molecules to make life as we know it. There's, medically speaking, there's even a system in the body which tends to correct anything that goes wrong, and it's called homeostasis. So the only place in the entirety of the universe where harmony does not exist is in the mind of man as he looks at the world around him, because he is driven by fear. The universe is essentially good everywhere. My job is simply to see it. Can I walk when I look at somebody across the room and he's got a scraggly beard and he's got an old black sweat t-shirt on and he's covered in tattoos, I can go, boy, that guy's really a scumbag, you know? But once I know who you are, once I look beyond the outside as to who is inside, I cannot but love you because you are goodness. What's on the
Well, I
outside
mean,
of me
but
doesn't count worth a damn.
I think that's an opinion because, like, to some
Guess
people,
what?
to some people, I am a scumbag, and probably
No, you can't be.
rightfully so.
You
Well,
can't be.
they have experienced parts of my personality that doesn't mesh well with them, and I am a scumbag. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's true. That is their truth, the way that they see me. There's nothing you can tell them to change their
I
experience
don't
with
have
me.
to take care of all the problems of all the people in the world. I cannot be all to all people. All that matters is me and you having this conversation. I don't care what Jubala thinks of you. I don't care what the Proud Boys think of you, or what the Antifa thinks of you. What other here is a maxim that I learned on the back of my counselor's door. It said, "What other people think of me is none of my business. I don't
Yeah,
care what
sure.
they think of me.
Yeah,
I
no, I
remove
agree with you on
that's a
that.
fear. That's a fear. I remove that from you. You think of me
Well,
whatever you
I don't
want
know. I don't
because
know.
I know who I am.
I think we
I know
need
who I
an
am.
objective look at ourselves sometime though. Like, what if everyone you meet is like, dude, this dude is a scumbag, especially when you were in your addiction. Like, what? Because some people are like fooled by their own thoughts. I'm good just the way I am. I
Absolutely,
don't have a
absolutely.
problem. It's like, no, you have a problem, dude. You're pissing people off. You're stealing from your family. You need to change. You know what I'm saying?
That's something. Yeah, but see, like we said, you can tell me I need to change, but until I decide I'm going to change, it won't make any difference. All right. And true, in the depths of my addiction, I was not a pleasant person.
Me neither.
Walking on this, well, but that was my behavior, and I am not my behavior. I am the I am, which is the essential goodness of God looking through me. My body is made out of clay. It's imperfect. It will never be perfect.
Yeah. See, I think
My
that
mind, my brain
I,
is the same,
I'm
but the
with you
I
on
am,
that. And
huh?
I'm with you on that, and I like to focus on that. But I do feel like I do think that duality exists, but it is a oneness there. Like, they go
It is
together.
all
You
oneness.
can't
Yeah,
have you can't have a yin without the yang, and they're both
exactly.
beautiful. Like, the depths of your addiction, you got through it. Now you can look back and help people. Like, you have a
Right. Give
passion
me an
within you.
example. Give me an
Go ahead.
example of a duality, and
Uh,
I'll help you break it apart.
Well, again, I'm going to break it apart with you because I think that they coexist. They complement.
Concrete example.
One
Give me a
doesn't exist without the other, so they have to go together. But I think beauty
give me an
in
example, concrete example of a duality that bothers you.
a duality that's the thing. They don't bother me. You know what I'm saying? But I think that we as humans, I do think that God creates evil, or I guess what we would call evil, something unpleasant, alcohol, and then we consume it or whatever. And then we make something beautiful evil. It's only in the eye of the beholder. So I think that
See,
I
and
think that
I choose to see goodness everywhere.
I do too.
In
But
everything, I can see goodness. And if
we have
somebody
the
else is
ability to create both though. Like, we have the ability to create beautiful art, or we have the ability to create something really,
true.
destructive and tear people down and troll people on the internet and create a blog that tears people down. Like, we have that ability to create or to destroy. I think that a true God of the universe is a creator, but also a destroyer, and we're made in that image. Like, so we have to be aware of the goodness and the beauty and those kind of things, right? Because we have that power. We have to mindfully do good. We have to
Yes, of course.
mindfully stay in the moment.
People say there are three kinds of fear. All right. There's the fear that I won't get what I want. There's the fear that I'll lose what I have. And the worst one for addicts and alcoholics, I'm deathly afraid that if you knew who I really was, you wouldn't like me. And every behavior that you've described, splashing paint on the wall, throwing bubble gum at little Susie, any of those are based on one of or other of those fears. And if I choose to live without fear, if I work very hard to drive fear from my mind, no longer am I driven in my thoughts in my speech and my behavior by fear. All right. And the fear, I think, comes from the fact that we feel we're separated. We're all alone out here in the wilderness, and there's nobody to help us. And oh my God, that guy's gonna do something terrible to me. Therefore, I have to do something to him first. You know, every bad action, I think, if you think about it and dwell on it, you'll see that they're all fear-driven. Yes, that's we do things that are less useful or more useful. But for me to judge good or bad, I can watch. I drive a Subaru, gets 28 miles a gallon. My truck only gets 15 miles a gallon. So, but that's a measurement. All right, that's not a judgment. I could judge, well, my truck is better than your Subi. I can pull a trailer and haul all kinds of farm stuff around in it. But you look at the Subi, it says, well, for comfort and for ease and for joy of driving on the highway, this is definitely a better car. They're only better in terms of the goal you set for them. I decide whether it's good or bad. It's all in my head. The world is good just the way that it is. If I perceive evil, if I perceive negativity, it's because I've decided in my head ahead of time that that's negative. I can decide that it's all part of the oneness, and the oneness supersedes everything. Everything exists inside the oneness. Nothing can exist outside of this field of love because that's impossible. It can't exist outside. So everything you see, my glasses, the reflection off of your glasses, the purple background, it's all inside the love of the universe. And like begets like. All right, that's a given. Like begets like. If I have negative thoughts in my head, negativity is coming out of me. If I put positive thoughts in my head, positive things, speech, words, action, all become more positive. And so which is evil? Let's say I say 50 F-bombs an hour, or I say 10 F-bombs an hour, or I say 1 F-bomb an hour. Which is good and which is bad?
It doesn't matter.
There's no answer to that, is there? All right. Yeah. So every behavior you can think of, well, certainly there's an up and a down, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We saw the movie Gravity, right, where she's floating around without any gravity. Mm-hmm. To escape the gravity of the earth, you only have to get 160 miles up. So the entire rest of the universe, there is no up and down. Only here in this one little bitty area, okay? Sure, diseases come, but that's because our bodies are imperfect. They're made out of clay, all right? Everything about me, except for that spirit, is made out of clay. Mm-hmm. It's really important to realize that I am not the thoughts in my head, okay? I am not my body. I am the I am. I am not the thoughts in my head. They just pop up, and I get to decide what to do with them. Meditation, I am told, is living in the space between those thoughts and realizing that that is reality.
I feel like that
make me crazy.
I feel like if everything was all good, then we wouldn't even have to mindfully, meditate, or it's like, I'm not going to think bad thoughts because I, by nature, am a good person and only good thoughts.
What's your goal? What is the goal in your life that makes you want to think bad thoughts?
I think it's
you're going to get even with somebody. You're going to take advantage of somebody. You're going to express your bad opinion of somebody else. What is the goal of holding and expressing negativity?
It just depends. Yeah, I don't know.
There's not one. My goal is to find serenity in this life. Okay. Just like I need new glass, I need to have the eyes to see that all women are beautiful, and they are. Once you start thinking that and looking at them, you can see the beauty of every woman. All right. I need the eyes of meditation to see through the trappings that are around me and realize that there is no thing good or bad except my thinking makes it so. I put the spin on everything. Coming out of any White House, an event will happen and they will put their spin on it. And then that becomes the reality for those people who believe it. Mm-hmm. And they choose to believe it because they're afraid.
Yeah.
Right?
I just see the beauty in both of it, though. I see the
Yeah.
beauty in the choice, even. You know what I'm saying? Like that I get to choose love, that I get to choose, because I can simply choose death. I can simply choose chaos and disorder. But the fact that we get to choose, I think, is huge. We do have the ability to create evil and tear people down and that kind of stuff. And I'm with you. We should never choose that in any. I don't think there's any scenario where we should. You know. But just the
No, but
duality, they coexist together. To think that this was a, it's a utopia right now, or um, whether we have to lie to ourselves again, the addict or the jerk who thinks that he's just telling people like it is because it's the truth, and and going
in
around
his
telling
mind,
everybody about their flaws and
only
stuff.
in his mind.
Yeah,
If he wants to hold that thought, that's fine by me. I don't care. I don't care what he thinks of me. I can see that behind all that negativity, in fact, he is a child of God, just like I am.
for sure.
And he loveth of God, just like I am. And because of our fears, we make mistakes. We do things that aren't as useful as otherwise.
Yeah, no, I'm with you because I try to see the good. I try to spin it and make it good as well. Like,
It
hey,
is
it's a good
good.
listen.
It
He's
is.
living his truth, man.
Yeah, yeah. Now, it's really important to remember that what works for me is not going to work for anybody else. Not one soul in the universe will find his answer in my answer. I can only hope that by sharing my experiences and some of the ideas that have been given to me, they will find something that's useful.
That's good stuff.
I am not the author of anything. Everything comes through me. All right. When I write or I play my guitar and sing, it is not me who is doing these things. It is that love and kindness flowing through me that does these things. And in fact, I can, by moving the ego and the heart out of the way and letting the I am flow through, I can ride that wave. Okay. When I write, I close my eyes and I try to shut down my ego and the words come flying out. All right. My job then becomes to edit them because I'm not very good at transcribing. Okay. I was in an AA meeting one time, and in those days I carried a notebook around with me to take notes. And this poem came through my head. It came so fast. It was 12 lines, and it came through my head so fast, and I only got 2.5 lines. It's a great 2.5 lines, but it's Jesus said that I do nothing by myself. It is the Father that doeth the works.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of this force field, you can find the opening lines of John where it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and God was the Word, and everything that came from that, came from the Word. It's exactly what we've been talking about. Spiritual truth is the same everywhere you look at it. You have to withdraw the trappings. There was a woman called Julian of Norwich who lived in England back in the 1300s, wrote a book, the first book known to be written in the English language by a woman. And she talked about having visions of Jesus. She had 12 visions and she wrote them down. And one of the things that she mentioned was that when God looks at the world, we see good and evil, but when God looks at the world, he only sees good. This was a vision she had, all right? But interestingly, everything else, when she wrote this, every other sentence was by the blessedness of the Savior and the wonderful of the Mother Church. And in the wonderful life of the Mother Church, I saw this. So you have to extract the eyes that she was looking through to get at the truth behind. You have to extract the things that people thought Jesus should have said from what he actually said, and get back to the bare truth, and then begin to understand them. There's an excellent book I would recommend to anybody who really wants to get a handle on this, and it's called The Sermon on the Mount by Emmett Fox, where he takes the Sermon on the Mount and he breaks it down. One of the ideas is that Jesus was an absolute revolutionary, and one of the ways you can tell if it's really his words is because he turns the world upside down. No, in days of old, we hated our enemy and loved our neighbor, but no, not now. Now we love everybody. In the old days, it was an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. No, not now. In the old days, we stoned a woman caught in adultery. No, not down. In the old days, a woman had 5 husbands. She was just anathema, No, not now. And those ideas, suddenly they just take on this immense, if there was a book that saved my life, that was it. Okay. Interestingly, it came out the same time that the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous came out. Alcoholics Anonymous came out back in the 30s. You can find spiritual truth anywhere you want. And what gets me, I mean, if you're researching, you find the same phenomena in 3 different places, you tend to believe that it's probably true. And when I find the same truths repeated over and over again, in medicine, for example, if you read an article that's 6 months old, it's already out of date because it was sick. It took 3 to 6 months for it from the time the authors began writing up the results, sending it off, having it go out to peer review, coming back, and then get in the queue to be published. It's already out of date. But spiritual truth never goes out of date.
Timeless.
Always the same. From the time the shepherds were tending their flocks by night and asking the same questions you and I are asking right now, it never goes out of date. So I find one little thing, and temporary truth will be wrong tomorrow. But these kinds of truth will never be wrong. It's the most fascinating stuff I've ever studied.
100%. Well, Lynn, man, I've enjoyed our talk. I've enjoyed our dialogue and discussion. Your story's been amazing. For people who want to tap into your work and check out your book and your counseling and everything that you do, where's a good place for people to check out your work at?
Well, Linville in Meadows is you can just simply Google that. I have a website that describes the book. The book is called A Spiritual Pathway to Recovery from Addiction, a Physician's Journal of Discovery. All right. It's available on Amazon and all over the place. The website about it is Spiritual Pathway to Recovery, no spaces or anything. There's a blog there as well, which I invite you to. There is another website called The Answer is Recovery, where I look at what the disease is, how do you approach it, how do you start to get sober, how do you keep yourself sober, and how to learn about spiritual principles. Oh, just as a coda, when I talk about spiritual principles, I'm not talking about pie in the sky. I'm talking about honesty, kindness, compassion. And if you boil down all the virtues and spiritual principles you can think of, you come up with one. And you can find this one spiritual in every religion of mankind. It is everywhere. And it's simply that I should do unto my neighbors what I would want to be done to me. If I want to be treated with respect, I have to treat you with respect. If I want to get honesty from you, I have to treat you with honesty. And that is a simple, it's amazing. I would never have believed how well it actually works.
For sure. I'm with it. Lynn, thanks so much for coming on, man. I really enjoyed our talk. We'll have to do it again, brother.
I would love to, Derek.
Thank you so much.
Maybe you come visit me up on the mountains when they.
Hey, I'd love to. I'm reading about your farm and everything that you have, and I love music as well, so it'd be awesome.
Yes.
Bro.
All right. Thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Lynn. Have a good day, brother. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Many blessings. Linville Meadows, ladies and gentlemen. Great talk. Spirituality and finding your spiritual path to overcome addiction, whatever that may be. Spiritual recovery, huge. Make sure you do that. I want to let's see here, share this video in a moment where about my upcoming program. This is what one of the students said. I'm going to bring this video up, but man, one of the things he talked about, problem solving skills, is what I heard. You know, when people are confronted with a problem, some people panic. You know, we do. You know, everything's going good until you get a flat tire. His wife freaking out. Got the flat tire. His wife started freaking out. Wait, it's easy. All you get. Don't go get the screwdriver and the hammer. Let's air it up. Take it 20 miles down the road. Get it fixed. Boom. It cost us $20 or whatever, and it's fixed. Versus like some people get that flat tire and it's the end of the world. And I think that everybody has their own problem solving skills. And some people are better at solving other problems than other people are. And I think that most of the time it's through experience, it's through even studying that, or how many of us can stay mindful or stay in the moment when we do experience something that is difficult in our lives and not freak out. I think we get better at that. I think that responding to those moments of uncertainty, responding with love, is definitely how you pass those tests. I think when things don't go your way, when someone is slandering your name or bringing up, speaking about your character falsely, whatever it may be, there's across the board scenarios. But and there's people who are better at other things, and for some of us it's financial things, for some of us it's spiritual matters. And so you would go to a person who has great problem solving skills when it comes to spirituality or religious understanding or whatever it may be. You have to seek out that person, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a coach, or whatever. So that problem solving skills and developing problem solving skills. And like he said, the addict doesn't really have good problem solving skills, because the answer for the addict when times are uncomfortable, when things are rough, when things aren't going good, the answer is the bottle. The answer is the pill. It's the instant gratification. It is, whatever it is, versus doing what is going to make you feel better and help you in the long run. And so we need to seek out those things in our lives that help us have delayed gratification, that are going to continually, it's going to be like the gift that keeps on giving. And it is spirituality, it is spiritual practice, it is connecting with the Creator through infinite love. I don't think that it is ifs or conditional love. It is definitely unconditional. And people can get both of those ideas from reading the Bible. You can read about a God who has conditions, and Jesus says, if you do this and if you do that, then this happens, then this happens. I do believe that there's things that we can do on our part that trigger things in our lives. Like, if you do this, then that happens. Obviously the Sermon on the Mount and all of these things, which he's talking about, but understanding that there is an infinite love, and you don't have to, that loves you if you are a drunkard, that loves you if you are a jerk, or whatever the case is. But I think it is that love, and it is that grace, that once you experience the yellow balloon or ball of love and gratitude, once you experience that, then that gives you the ability and the gas or the fuel to change. And having to change on your own without that, everyone needs help. Everyone needs somebody sometimes. Y'all remember that commercial? So we all do. And to understand that you are connected with that infinite power, with that infinite source, no matter what you've done, God is not mad at you. There's an everlasting love that loves you like you are, but has given you the ability to change. Has given you the grace and the power to change. You don't have to clean yourself up to be loved. You don't have to clean yourself up to be accepted. That's the message of Christ, man. And that message radically changed my life. And I know that there's countless people listening who have had that experience as well. And if you haven't, just invite you to just take a moment and just to focus on that love, to focus on that peace. Listen, we have the School of the Mystics. We do live prayer and meditation every Thursday night, and you could be a part of that. If you've never experienced it, that is definitely the goal through the conversations and through the meditation and through the prayer, is just to engage that. Lynn said that there was a prayer that he had to pray every day, and every time he prayed it, he instantly felt that release and that relief and that instant love. That we're all connected, and if there's anything that stands in the way, it's only within our own imagination. We become enemies of God within our own mind. We think that because of what we've done or what we've created or what we said or what we've thought, that we can never be forgiven, and that's a lie. And so let that be our reality. Let that truth ever change you and ever bring you into the depths of searching out that love, that it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. So much so, Lynn talked about being in an encounter where he just was overwhelmed with that beautiful, radiant white light during meditation, listening to Amazing Grace. Maybe that'd be a great way to start off our prayer tonight. our prayer and meditation. Close our eyes. Focus on that amazing grace. I've experienced it. Many of you have, through meditation, through prayer, through being mindful, and then boom, it happens. Euphoria, bliss, God's love, God's energy just overtakes you. That energy, that light, I do feel like it is washing us. It is ever cleansing us. Listen, we are carrying our burdens. We are carrying our ailments and things like that. But it is when we release it, when we allow God to take it off of us, and God is willing. That energy, the love of Christ is willing for you to experience that. And that's what this podcast is about, to talk about this stuff, talk about problems, but you notice that everyone has a solution. And that's what I want to know. What's working for you? What helped you? What is helping you right now get through this pandemic? What is it? And I think that the more we talk about that, the more ways we find that we have different ways to cope. And for me, here a little, there a little, there's many ways that we just add. How do we cope? There's comedy, love, laughter, friendship, spirituality, reading, there's making music. Like there's so many different ways that helps us to maintain our peace, family, making memories, and to champion that, to keep it going, keep doing it. So for you, what's helping you? And I'm going to keep doing it. Find out what works and keep doing it. There's a question here. D-Rock talks about, why do some of us self-sabotage? And how do you stop it? What does that mean when we go out of the way to harm ourselves or others? Why do we self-sabotage? And how do we stop? I think the first thing to recognize to stop it maybe comes from the AA stuff, but to realize that you have a problem, to realize that you're doing it, because there's people who self-sabotage, they don't even know they're doing it. But the fact that you know it, you notice it, you see it's a pattern, and then you stop, you can catch yourself. That's the first thing, is to be mindful and to understand. And I've definitely seen those patterns in my life, and I try to kind of slip back into them, whether it's a mindset or not caring or whatever that comes right before that self-sabotage, to stop, to back out, to do whatever, to, hey, I said I was going, but now I changed my mind or whatever. And listen, and I definitely have been a victim of my own mentality. And why do you do it? So we want to get to the reason why. They're definitely through trauma, through hurt, through not feeling worthy or accepted. I think the worthy is a part of it. There's so many reasons why. I think a lot of it is like, for me, it's been building something or a platform or a consistency to where everything's going good, but you're so used to a life of confusion, a childhood of confusion, of instability, that once things are stable in your life, you unconsciously do something to mess up that stability. Oh, told you nothing ever works out. I told you whatever. Like, we all have these weird excuses that we tap into. So figuring out what that is and catching yourself. Chris Garner says we all have different whys. There are so many whys. But the first thing about stopping is to realize that you've done it or you're doing it. And then when you realize that, then you can feel it coming back on, because everything works in patterns, and you can catch yourself. You can grab your hand and say, hold on, I'm not doing it this time. I done did it too much. Whether it's people getting too close into your life. And once people get close, you burn those bridges and you run those people off. That happens a lot. You get so many, get friends or whatever, or get somewhere in business. I got, people who start new jobs every, 2 months. They pull out, or they don't go to work. Like, that's a good one. Like people who keep going to different jobs, like they want to call in to work. They just don't feel like going in. Well, catch yourself. Listen, I can't call in. I just got to show up. I got to keep going. I can't call into a new job. I got a friend who he started a job On his first day of his job, he goes to the job. He works 3 hours and says, "Oh, I have a appointment at the chiropractor that I have to go see the chiropractor. I go see him every Monday." He comes to work for 3 hours and says, "I got to go to the chiropractor." On your first day, like, that doesn't look good. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then every Monday, or you just look for reasons, and you got to check yourself, man. And it really is coming down to know yourself, to know thyself, know your limits, know yourself, know your worth, know what you can and can't do is a huge part of stopping the self-sabotage. Knowing yourself, because you can catch yourself and see them destructive patterns that you're in, and you can adjust it. Childhood trauma is definitely most common, Chris says. But I want to play this video. This is and I'll answer some more questions. Let me know if anybody in the chat has any questions or want me to talk about anything. Just let me know. We'll be on here a few more minutes, and we could talk about whatever, answer questions or whatever it is. So I'm gonna play this video here of my friend's testimonial from my Path of the Healer program, because we're getting ready to relaunch it in February. For those of you who are wanting to be a part of this program, it is an 8-week program where we're training people to do one-on-one sessions with individuals, to do counseling, to find out your purpose and to walk in it. If you feel drawn to be a coach, spiritual counselor, Reiki master, intuitive healing, whatever that is, if you feel called to do that, I'm going to train you in it. We're going to go through the first 4 weeks is working through your own trauma. We mentioned the childhood traumas. It really is focusing on your own childhood trauma, inner healing, and whether that's dealing with finances, which is a huge part. We deal with that. We deal with reasons why you're unqualified. We go through it all, and then we teach you how to practically do this stuff, to how to tap into intuitive healing, how to do a one-on-one session with someone, how to do a guided meditation, how to do a free consultation with the client to see that if you're a perfect match, how to set up the website, how to get clients, how to work on this stuff. And we work through the practical stuff on the back end as well, starting a podcast, putting out content on YouTube, starting a blog that's effective, that gets in front of new people on Google because they're searching the topics that you bring to the table, really holding your hand through this process and teaching it all. So if you're interested in this, just go to TruthSeekah.com, and at the very top you will see a image that says the Path of the Healer program. It is an 8-week program. It is an investment. There are different payment options if you want to be a part of it, but I want to play this testimonial here that I've been getting back from some of the students, and I'm going to play this one from my friend V, and I've got so much more that I want to bring to the table with this, and I'm going to play some of the other ones when I get them uploaded, but I'm getting some of the testimonials back. But here's a V's experience.
My name is V, and I wanted to just kind of do this video to let it be known to TruthSeekah and anyone else really who might be watching. I was the kind of person, still kind of am, kind of coming out of it, very private, very timid, very shy, not real comfortable in my own skin. And knowing TruthSeekah all this time, about 2 years I think it is, and you know, I didn't have the opportunity to work with him directly, but being in the community, the mystic community, and taking part on the Thursday night calls, and then doing his Path to Healer class, it's been like so wonderful. And I have on a ton of makeup, as you can see, so I'm gonna try not to cry, but I've been able to finally step out into who I know I'm supposed to be. That was a problem for me most of my life. You know, I knew I was always different, and I tried to search for the element of family, and I never really had it, especially in church, you know. So I spent a lot of time alone, and a lot of time, you know, really not understanding who I am and what God has it for me to do. And, you may wonder, how does listening to a podcast help you find that? Well, because he touches on a lot of things that nobody else wants to talk about. Through these podcasts and through the Thursday night meetings and through the class, there's this feeling of comfort, this feeling of family, this knowing that you yourself are not the only person that's out there in any type of spiritual community that is alone. There's family. It's okay to be who you are. It's okay to be who God called you to be. And if you don't know, he's like that accessible to ask. This class alone, I've learned how to step out into who I'm supposed to be. 2 years ago, I would have never had a website talking about healing sessions and spiritual healing and healing cards and things like that. 2 years ago, I would have never been able to tell people about the gifts I have and, just really be me. 2 years ago, I just would have been in a hole by myself, wondering what the hell's going on, like normal. But thank you, Derek, so very much for all that you've done. I know that, like I said, I haven't had a chance to really one-on-one personally connect with you, but you have to know that since I've been in your ministry and in your class, I've grown personally. My finances have grown. My confidence has grown 100%. The relationship in my home has grown between my husband, my kid, and myself. And, my husband listens to you too, so it's pretty cool. But we're comfortable with who we are. And we have learned how to communicate with God so much deeper and so much better. And we've just learned how to really love and what love looks like through people. So I wanted to give you that. We love you here in this house. And I thank you so much for what you've done for us.
My friend V. Thank you, V. Again, man, it's been such an honor launching this course and working with individuals who said yes. One thing about self-sabotage and trying to create something for yourself is that we say yes. We got to say yes, right? But we have to keep saying yes. We have to keep showing up. A lot of us will say yes and we'll show up, but then we don't continue to do the work. We'll say yes to something else. Like I said yes that I was going to start this website. I was going to start this blog and do this. And we do it for 3 weeks. And then, well, my friend wanted me to join his podcast. So I'm not starting my own. I'm starting his, and we're talking about baseball cards. Now, hold on. How is that conducive to what you originally said yes to? So you have to keep that vision in front of you. You have to remind yourself. You got to write it down and find yourself when other people are pulling you to do other things. And I still get it because being so creative and so many ideas, I want to do it all. Listen, I want to start a gaming podcast. I want to start this. I want to start that. I want to be in a band again. I was in a band. It was so fun. I can't do all that. I don't have enough time. I have to figure out what it is that I'm creating that's going to serve me later, that delayed gratification, and keep building upon that, even when you don't feel like it, even when the newness is wore off. Because for all of us, all of this stuff, the newness wears off. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's spirituality. I don't care if it's Christianity. I don't care if it's astrology that you got into. Eventually, when something's brand new, that newness wears off. And are you going to keep showing up? Are you going to stir yourself up? Are you going to keep your spirit in? Are you going to keep your heart in it? Whatever it is, to continue saying yes. And that's what the class does. It teaches individuals to do that. The testimonies, to see someone like V step out, coming from the church realm, being scared to even speak her truth on social media for fear of judgment from church family and immediate family and those things. When you start talking about these things that you're into, that you can say yes and be authentic about what you believe in, that's huge. Huge. And if that's the only thing that this course brought to the table, boom, it's worth every penny. That I can be authentic and say yes to who I am, to be comfortable in my own skin around whoever I'm in the face with. This is my belief. This is who I am. This is what brings me joy. And I really don't care how it makes you feel. And if that's all that it did, then it's worth it. But it's so much more than that. V started her website. She just got her first client. She's working on one-on-one sessions. She's doing meditations and all of this. Not only V, we had 9 students show up, and all of them have made huge steps and huge progresses in their life. And I tell you, not all of them join to become spiritual healers or to do a healing business or something like that. A lot of them joined because they believe in my work and they wanted to be a part of anything that I'm doing. And so whatever I put out, they're going to be a part of it because they believe in the message and they believe in my authenticity. So they wanted to partner with that. And so even to see them, the people who joined it, maybe even thinking that they might start a business, other people again joined. I'm not going to start a business, but everything that we taught was applicable for every area of your life. When it comes to intuitive healing, when it comes to how to pray, how to see in the spirit, that transcends and reaches to every part of your life. Everywhere that you're going to go, you could take that with you to your own manifestation practice. We do that, all of it, to manifest whatever it is that you see inwardly, the true you, your destiny, your vision, get clear on it. And then we work on manifesting it. That's what it is. So to see V step out, my friend Jeff, he stepped out, got his first client, and pretty much paid for the program through his first client. He's still getting more and more clients. He's doing guided meditations. He's doing destiny cards and all of that stuff. And he's stepping out, going live on Facebook, going live on YouTube, and going live on TikTok, which is killing it on TikTok. You know, hundreds of thousands of views, videos going viral, and it's all conducive to his work, to spirituality, to manifestation. And he got his first client was $500. His first client was $500, and it pretty much paid for the whole 8-week program. So if you're interested in that, I want to make it available because I haven't been talking about it a lot. It's just out there. People really have to reach out to me about it, but I wanted to share V's story. And in the coming weeks, Jeff sent me a beautiful video. A couple other people sent videos, and I'm going to play those on the podcast because I know that, you know, people listening on the podcasting apps, they don't really get to see all the stuff on social media, and then algorithms don't share it out and that kind of stuff. But if you're interested, go to TruthSeekah.com. It's an 8-week program. You can sign up there. If you have any questions, you can jump on a call with me. I'd love to talk to you and answer your questions, and if it's for you. So with that being said, I'm going to say peace and shalom. I know I can keep going. So much for us to talk about. We're going to keep going. Today, what is today? The 14th. My birthday will be this Sunday. I'm thinking about doing a live stream Sunday night for my birthday. We'll see. But it's going to be fun. Either way, got family coming in town this weekend, I believe. So really cool. So with that, I'm going to say peace and shalom. Check it out. TruthSeekah.com, Patreon.com/TruthSeekah. We will be live tonight with prayer and meditation. If you need prayer for anything, make sure that you tap in with us. The first hour will be public. The second hour is behind the scenes with the community, and join us any way you can. So with that, peace and shalom, and I will see you guys very soon. Peace, peace.
Your way so much higher than mine, so much higher than mine, so much deeper than mine, so much deeper than mine.
Well, that does it for this episode, folks. To hear more episodes of the TruthSeekah podcast, head over to TruthSeekah.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/TruthSeekah.